How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and today we've got the final part of the theory trilogy that I've been working on recently, where we're going to discuss the Sector 5 Slums Church. Don't forget, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future content, but we're going to jump straight into this one. Also, spoilers for the whole OG and all of Remake. Just the entire compilation up to this point. Spoilers. Okay, you've been warned. Spoilers. Let's do this. The church in the Sector 5 slums has been involved in many pivotal events in the world of Final Fantasy VII. The church was previously used for the people of the slums to pray to God. However, over time, the church became abandoned, and eventually became a spot heavily connected with a character that we all know and love, Aerith. Originally, Ifalna had been trying to get to the church with Aerith, when the pair took their chance and escaped from Shinra. This is stuff that we learn in Trace of Two Pasts. And in time, this led Aerith herself to head in there repeatedly. Due to the memory of her mother kind of wanting to get there, she kind of identified this as a safe space. Over time, she started tending a small flower garden that grows in the church, as it does around Aerith's house, while constantly under the watchful eye of the Turks and Shinra. Eventually in Crisis Core, Aerith meets Zack, and in Final Fantasy VII, Aerith meets Cloud, both of these events happening at the church. And even after her passing in the OG, a visual remnant of her life can be seen tending the flowers in the church. So the church is a vitally important place in Final Fantasy VII, and has a strong connection with Aerith as shown to us repeatedly in universe up to the point that we are now. So far in Remake, the church once again brings Cloud and Aerith together, with Aerith talking about the place having a kind of power that allows the flowers to flourish. It's also here that Cloud has his first big vision of the scenes at the Forgotten Capital from the OG. This is triggered when Aerith talks about the materia that she has, the useless materia. But something interesting before all of this happens, and it's as Cloud lays unconscious on the ground with Aerith trying to wake him. And Cloud's going through the internal dialogue that we all remember from the OG. But then Sephiroth appears. And Sephiroth intrudes upon this scene in a way that he doesn't in the original game. But this is just an additional point, we'll circle back round to Sephiroth. That's all we've had for the church so far. Other than the intervention of the Whispers in the confrontation with Reno and things like that, there was nothing more that we saw of the church in Remake. But then we saw more. The first time that we saw it was at the end of intermission, and we see Zack waiting outside the church debating whether or not to go in and what he's going to say when he sees Aerith again. Eventually, he plucks up the courage and flings the door open, and finds instead of Aerith people recovering from some kind of traumatic event. One interesting thing about this is the glowing white background behind Zack as he opens the door, and this is something that we have seen before. Now the second time that we see the church is with Zack sitting outside on the steps, potentially after the previous time that we've just seen him there, or maybe just before. Maybe it's a completely different scene. But either way, he's sat on the steps, and we see Sephiroth walk past him, up the steps to the door, and then he turns around to Zack, and he says, "No, not you," before seemingly slashing at Zack. Now I assume he's turning around and saying that to Zack. It could be that the trailer's been cut together in a bit of a weird way to kind of throw us off the scent, but it seems like Zack is being rejected by Sephiroth from gaining access to the church. But then the final time that we see the church is from the same trailer, the next scene, and it shows us Cloud and Aerith inside the church, and Aerith is holding out what seems to be the white materia to Cloud. And she says, "Here, take it. This isn't about me though, it's about saving the world and you." And all of this is a lot. All of this is a lot. It gives us a lot to think about regarding the church. The only other experiences with the church that we have, there's a little bit of stuff in Before Crisis, but the only kind of thing that connects with what we're talking about here comes from Advent Children, where it's the central point for the healing power of Aerith, and the point where Geostigma is finally cured. But it's the shot towards the end that we see, where Aerith walks towards the door, Zack stood there in the doorway, and we see that bright white light behind them. Very similar, if not identical, to the very bright white light that we see behind Zack. Now this led a lot of people to a natural conclusion, that the area where Zack is, that we've seen in the trailers, is the afterlife or the live stream, because at the end of Advent Children, you would say that Aerith is returning to the live stream, and Zack is there, and it's the afterlife. But what if it's more than that? What if it's not so much that this is the afterlife and we're just seeing a visual representation of that? But what if the church is truly a special place in the world of Final Fantasy VII? And it may not be the only one. What if the church is like an anchor point that connects various points in time within Final Fantasy VII's timeline? Whether it's a natural occurrence or something that is a byproduct of maybe Aerith, an ancient, tending the land there repeatedly, and probably cultivating a decent amount of livestream energy there. It could be something that occurs naturally as well. We've seen Mako Springs, we've seen the planet gather vast amounts of livestream energy to heal wounds. What if certain circumstances can be met that in turn create one of these anchor points within the livestream? It makes sense that we see the scene between Aerith and Cloud, which in my mind is very similar to the resolution scene that we get in Remake at Aerith's house. In that scene, we see Cloud with an Aerith with memories closest to the future, in an area where Aerith spends a lot of time and energy. And in Rebirth, it seems yet again, we get a scene with an Aerith who seems different to the Aerith that we've been with in-game. The hair's down, there's a bit of a different energy to her, and it seems like it's happening in a location where Aerith will have spent a lot of time and energy throughout a variety of time periods. All of this begins to make me feel like the church is being used as, like I say, an anchor point or a central point, not only between times but realms as well possibly, as we see in Advent Children with the afterlife. It at the very least seems to have a strong connection to the live stream. It's a conduit of some sort. And this brings us to Sephiroth. A Sephiroth that we've spoken about a lot in the last two videos, a Sephiroth who would potentially have been stuck in a spot where he lacks the power to regain himself after Advent Children. A Sephiroth a lot of us believe is from the future, similarly to the Aerith with memories closest to the future, who's reaching back and influencing things in the past. And maybe the church, or, like I was saying earlier on in the video, other locations like it, are what facilitates this. Maybe these spots where there's been an abundance of Mako, and an apparent difference to the area, or some kind of big event that occurs, could be used for more than people have ever realised other than maybe the ancients. The shot we see in which it looks like Sephiroth rejecting Zack from the church makes me think of Sephiroth trying to keep Zack where he is in order to stop any interference with his plans. But the fact that we even see him there immediately suggests to me that if the church really is some sort of conduit between realities, then Sephiroth seems to have some degree of control over, or at least knowledge to the point where he can traverse it freely. It could explain Sephiroth's return if that's what we're dealing with. Even, like I say, if he doesn't directly use the church, he could be using other locations such as the North Crater. There could be various spots where he's able to infiltrate different time periods. It could even explain the Midgar bubble that we see with duplicates of Cloud and Aerith, where Zack survives and where Sephiroth seems to roam freely. If this is some kind of bubble reality that was created in the end of Remake, the church being a connecting point between the two is a massively strong candidate. And as we've discussed in the video, it's not something that'd be completely new. Is it in a different time and the livestream has caused a connection between time frames? Or is it a different realm and the church connects the two? Is it the afterlife and the church connects the two? Could the church hold a lot of the answers to the questions that were posed by Final Fantasy VII Remake? Well, we've got 5 days to wait until we can all start getting answers to some of these questions. This is going to be the last theory video that I do before Rebirth. Over the last 4 years, we've put a hell of a lot of possibilities out there. But now, the talking's done, the theory crafting is over. Now is the time for Rebirth. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and sub, but more importantly than anything, have a great day.